On Monday, almost every market, including Bitcoin, stock, gold, silver, oil, everything was dumping. What's going on? Are we going to hell? Let's find out. So today, instead of Bitcoin, let's start with the stock market. And then I will go to gold and silver because I think these three are the most important market. If they go down, Bitcoin will also go down with them. So let's start with specifically Dow Jones. So this is the Dow Jones chart. The reason I want to start with Dow Jones is because of the RSI is showing some interesting pattern. As I mentioned before, this kind of a resistance becomes support line is important for RSI. And for this one, we have one touch point, two touch point, three touch point, and then breakout. For this one, we finally have one touch point and the second touch point. Now, usually, I would look for a third touch point, which for RSI, if you go something like one touch point, two touch point, ideally a three touch point, and then breakout. But in some cases, what we get is not something like this. Instead, we will get something like this. We will break out first, and then come back and retest it, and then bounce off. And in some cases, it's also my favorite case. That is, we break out first, and then break this line to about RSI equals to about 20 and then bounce off. In this process, a lot of people gave up and then panic sell. And that is my favorite trading pattern. Which case would it be? I cannot tell because right now we only have two touch points. What will happen next depends on the RSI and see if it will break out of this line. If we take a look at S&P 500, you will see that we don't have a clear second touch point. We only have this one. We don't have a second one. And if you look at the Nasdaq, the same thing. We don't have a clear second touch point here. This is why I think the most probable way for Nasdaq to go is still keep going down and form a second touch point so that we can move the RSI something like this, move it over here so that we can have a second touch point. I think that's the most healthy way for the stock market to go. Is it possible that the RSI will just keep going up and do something like this? It's a possibility, but I don't think this is healthy. Instead, something like Dow Jones RSI is much healthier because we have this resistance line here. We have one touch point, two touch point, preferably the third touch point, and then break out and then retest and then go up. That would be a much longer consolidating pattern, and it's much healthier for the stock market in my opinion. Some people are afraid that something in March, that like a huge dump in March will happen again. But in my opinion, that is really unlikely to happen. The reason is quite simple. We are just 6 months away from this huge dump. A lot of people still remembering this Black Swan event. So, if the market dump a little bit, those people are already gone. A small movement from the downside will push a lot of weekend out of the market. This is why we have a fear and greed index at around 52. So a couple weeks ago we are still at 70. So a small market move, a lot of people already gone. They are still really afraid something like in March will happen. Now this is things gets interesting. We are at 52, which means 50% of people are not in the market. So if you are bear, what would you do? If you keep pushing the price down, you don't earn a lot of money because we only have 50% people are in the market. The same thing, if you're a bull, if you push the market up, you don't earn a lot of money because we only have 50% of people are shorting. If we are in the extremely greed, like 80 or 90%, then 90% of people are longing. In that case, you short market, you will earn a lot of money. But this is not the case. You push it down, you don't earn a lot of money. It's simple as that. This is why I think the market will rebound. The question is when. Now let's go back to Dow Jones. If you take a look at it, Dow Jones form a head and shoulder pattern. A shoulder, a head, and another shoulder. And if we can mark the neckline something like this, so this pattern is finished, and the target on the downside is something like this. You can measure it from the top and then move this down, and the target is around 25,000. So in my opinion, on the downside, the first target is around 25,000 points. However, you got to understand that not every pattern we will meet the target. So there is a possibility that the price can go down a little bit and then just go up. That is also possible. So don't bet on this pattern will be finished and met the target. For me, the most important thing is, like I said, is RSI. I prefer it to go down a little bit and then form a third touch point and then break out and then come back and touch this line again and then go up. But we'll have to see what happens next. Now let's take a look at gold market. Actually, better yet, let's start with the silver, because silver has something interesting happening. Now this is the silver chart. If you take a look at the RSI, you can see something like what I just said. We have this resistance line first. It touches once, twice, and then break this resistance line, and then come back and break it again to the downside. This is an interesting trading pattern to me. The ones I like is I will look for a third touch point, something like one touch point, two touch point, maybe a third one, and then break out, and then break down. It only have two, which means it's quite a premature breakout. So even if we break down like this, there is still a possibility that it will break out and then break it down again, in my opinion. Now let's take a look at the price action. So in my previous video, I mentioned two scenarios. The first one that it break down, the second one is that it break out to the upside. Right now, the first scenario, break down to the downside, is reality. Now let's take a look at these candles. We first have a large candle here, and a small one here, and then a third one. One of the classic bear candles is something like this. You first have a big dump, and then you have another small candle, and then a third one, and then something like this, and this forms a bear flag. So this is like a flag, and then you have another big dump. So this is a possibility. Right now, look at this pattern. It looks like a bear flag to me. So there is still a chance for silver price to keep going down. But I must warn the bears. Right now, the RSI is at 36. We are starting entering the oversold zone. So there's not much downside for the RSI. So if you keep shorting it here, there's a chance that this bear flag could be breakout to the upside. It could go this way. So don't try to put your money on this pattern. Breakout to the upside is also a possibility, even though the possibility is lower than this one. So you have been warned. Now let's take a look at gold price. So we also pictured two scenarios on the last video. Right now the downside is the reality. And let's take a look at if we can find any interesting pattern. So on bear chart, in gold chart, we also have this bear flag like pattern. And for RSI, we don't have much of a touch points. If you put it here, the angle is too steep. If you put it here, that's a little bit reasonable, because we have one touch point, two touch point, breakout, come back. It didn't retest it yet, but RSI is close to 40. For gold, we are still kind of in the bull market, because you can see this huge upper move, right? So we are pretty much in the huge bull market. So will this keep going down, test this line? I wouldn't bet my money on it. It's possible, yeah, that would be great, because a lot of people are waiting to buy it down here. So it's a possibility, but I wouldn't bet on it. A lot of people already starting to buy it. So the same thing for gold. I wouldn't bet on this bear flag to keep going down. For the RSI to do something like this is totally possible, and then go to the upside. That's totally possible. So bears, be careful. Now let's take a look at oil. Last time I mentioned that this pattern here, we have a one touch point, two touch point, third one, fourth one, or the fifth one is starting to break out, and then it break down. This is my favorite pattern because the RSI already reached 20, 23, so it's pretty low. This is why a lot of people are buying it, and the RSI rebound to this resistance line and then starting to consolidate. So there is a, in my opinion, there is a good chance that if you do something like just something like this and then break out to the upside. But could it happen? I don't know. That's something I would bet on, because this pattern will make a lot of people lose hope during this dump. All I can tell you is that the buying opportunity has emerged, and it happened not today, but last week. This is one of the best buying opportunities in quite some time. So if you look at the price action, it might do something like this, go down and then break out. This is in line with the RSI possibility. Now let's go back to cryptocurrency for Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin has a one touch point, two touch point, third touch point breakout, and then come back and retest this line. Now the interesting thing is, will it break down of this line and form my favorite trading pattern? Do something like this. If I extend this line, if it break this to the downside close to about 20 RSI 20, that will be the most bullish thing happening in the cryptocurrency space. But right now we already starting to see a bounce from this line, so it's a possibility that this scenario might not happen. It could just bouncing around this line and then break out to the upside. If we take a look at fear and greed index, we are at 43. Pretty much the same with stock, pretty close. So a lot of people are afraid right now. And this is when the bulls will strike. And take a look at BitMEX index funding. For daily, we are still in negative. This is a great sign for the bulls. The bulls still have power, even if the price just got pushed down. The momentum is still with the bulls. And if we take a look at the 4-hourly, look at the BitMEX index funding. We are at negative all the way. All of this, we are in negative zone. This is very bullish, no matter in daily, 4-hourly, and even weekly. I think weekly we are also in the negative. Yes, the third week we are in negative. This is great for the power of bulls. But if the stock market and gold market is slowly moving down, just like I mentioned before, there is also a possibility for Bitcoin to slowly moving down with those markets. But I don't think the downside is huge. And another good sign for Bitcoin is that after all these drops, we are still above at least we are still at the support line here. This huge support line. This 10,500 support line. We still haven't break it. This is why I think the bulls have a pretty good chance to push the price up in the next 2 weeks. Now the question is for you. What do you think of all this market? Do you think we will keep dumping? Are you afraid right now? Jump down to the comment section and let me know. I promise I won't laugh at you. And as usual, if you like my content, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe. My name is Chui. This is your trading and investing channel, Blockchain Thunder. Thank you guys so much to come back to the channel. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.